What's up, everybody? Mel here again with Sunrise Compass. Sunrise 365, our IP, exists because we saw holes in out-of-the-box functionality that we had to fill on every customer project. And you really need to understand how that IP fits in with out-of-the-box functionality. The end-to-end supply chain has a lot of processes, starting from planning for your goods, to allocating them to orders, to releasing them to the warehouse. And those who are new to the ERP world tend to overgeneralize that all as just planning. So let's clear that up, and who better to help me do that than getting Mr. Chris Nealon to join me here in the studio again.
Thanks for having me, Mel. You know, this is one of my favorite topics. I totally agree that people have this tendency to lop everything into one bucket when you really need to think about it as a funnel, right? So at the beginning of your supply chain or planning horizon, you have your aggregate planning, right? You're thinking about what your supply needs are going to be, and you're contacting your vendors about what those are going to be. You're communicating what the requirement is. On the inverse side of that, you're beginning to collect demand from your customers. You're starting to get orders in advance. That is the aggregate planning that you're anticipating going into your planning horizon. Next up, you have the true planning component, which we refer to as master planning in D365. This is going to look at all of your open transactions, all of your forecasts, and is going to create or determine your net requirements. We refer to that as master planning in D365. That's true of both the legacy X++ version and planning optimization. Both are trying to create your net requirements.
Okay, so tell me more about net requirements.
Sure. So we already talked about the planning component. Say I anticipated supply needs of 1,000 units, but demand outpaced that, and I was really at 1,500. Master planning is going to create either a planned purchase order or a planned production order, or maybe even a planned transfer order to get that additional 500 units that I need.
That's right, because the goal of a good supply chain is to get to net zero.
That's right, unless you have item coverage settings like safety stock, which is intentionally telling the system to keep reserve inventory.
Okay, so we have our plan. Are we ready to execute?
The next step should be inventory analysis, or what we refer to in Sunrise 365 as soft allocation. Soft allocation is all about the theoretical what if. Soft allocation relies on a philosophy that not all demand is created equal. So what it's doing is it's looking at your supply horizon and your demand horizon to figure out the most optimal spread of your goods. The demand horizon is configurable. You can choose what your customer priority is, what your transactional priority is, and you can do the same thing on the supply side. Now, you need to consume from on hand first, but then you can configure the system to draw from purchase orders, planned purchase orders, transfer orders, whatever it is. You can configure how you're going to fulfill your demand.
So earlier you said that soft allocation is a what if tool. Tell me more about that.
Right, so soft allocation gives you the ability to create different plans and run simulations about what that interaction based on the priorities of your supply and demand are going to be. This needs to be an active process. You should have someone at your organization dedicated to analyzing the outputs of soft allocation so that they can take action. What if I don't have enough supply to meet this demand? What orders are going to drop out? What's the impact to my revenue? What shipments are going to be late? That is a key capability of soft allocation and part of the planning component that's vital for organizations to have as a capability.
Okay, so say we do this what if analysis correctly. What are the next steps we should take?
Well, now we're actually getting to the execution component. In base D365, that's automated order release.
Automated order release, meaning we're automating releasing to the warehouse?
Automated order release is all about fulfillment and execution. It looks at all of your open demand transaction and attempts to release them for picking work. Actually go send this out. So automated order release is an out-of-the-box Microsoft feature, but Sunrise has enhanced it. We took that concept of the demand sequence and we linked it to automated order release so that what roughly happened in soft allocation will be the input for automated order release.
That makes sense.
So Mel, you know, different customers have different policies about how and when a shipment should be sent to them. And so for that reason, we also introduced the concept of order thresholds in automated order release. This can be set at the system level, the warehouse level, or the customer level to ensure that we're only sending shipments when they've passed these thresholds. Now, this also means that there's an active steering component to automated order release. You need to be checking the log to make sure that you're not just holding inventory for an order that's not eligible to release, or maybe you need to process it as an exception.
Active steering, like John always talks about.
Exactly.
So, Chris, I hear that we have a cloud version of automated order release in the pipeline. Anything new we need to know about that?
Absolutely. So I just mentioned how automated order release in embedded F&O uses the soft allocation demand sequence as an input. That's just using the demand sequence. In smart order release in the cloud, we are actually going to use the allocated results as the input for smart order release. It's a big difference.
Okay, so let's tie it all back together.
Absolutely. So like we said at the beginning of the video, it's a funnel. You have all of your aggregate planning at the very beginning, what you're actually attempting to do with your suppliers and what you're anticipating from demand. Then you get into the true planning motion, which is master planning or planning optimization. If you're using Sunrise 365, you have the philosophical what if analysis capability of soft allocation to analyze how your inventory is going to be used. And then finally, you have the execution and fulfillment component of order release, whether that's automated order release in embedded F&O or smart order release.
Okay, so it's plan, analyze, and execute. So any final thoughts for us?
Mel, just like you said, there are lots of processes involved in the end-to-end supply chain. But if you just take a step back and look at those 4 major components of the funnel, it's a lot easier to understand.